Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And on this episode, we're going to be discussing some underrated skills that you can have that will help you personally and professionally. So a lot of people, as you're listening, go ahead and think about how you can add these skills to your personal life and your professional life. Because guess what? Life doesn't have to be hard. There doesn't have to be so much struggle. I know it's common for a lot of people to think that we have to go through pains and different struggles to really come out on top. However, many times when people are stuck, that's when they decide to look at some different skills that they can acquire and things like this. What if, though, instead, you could actually have skills that you were already using so you didn't have to wait until you became stagnant or stuck to actually do something and move forward? Because a lot of times when that happens, then we end up having to put in time, money, and energy into these resources for people externally to help us. So what if there were some underrated skills that you could have and you could learn about these for free? Now, would this be useful for you? Because these are skills that indirectly, I don't necessarily bring up these skills all the time by name. However, a lot of these skills, I teach them to my students. And the whole point of learning the skills is not only do you acquire them, do you install these new habits in your unconscious mind so that you know that you can easily do these skills. That's the whole point. So you can then use them easily and effortlessly. Because a lot of things in life, it can seem much harder than it is. However, when you have skills that change how you think, then I think it's safe to assume that you can then imagine your reality in a whole new way. Because if you think about it, the present, it is really a result of this future that you're imagining. So why not boost your personal life and your professional life with some underrated skills? And these skills, they're underrated because they get so many results and people don't talk about them all the time. So during the, I would say, first hour or first 2 hours of the trainings that I do, one of the things that I mention is curiosity. And curiosity, this is the first underrated skill. And this is something that people really should consider daily, on a daily basis. And along with curiosity, you should also have a willingness to experiment. What if you went around to every conversation that you had, even the people that you knew, and what if you were just incredibly curious about what they were thinking, what they were feeling, what they have going on in their life? Imagine how much you could get to know them on a deeper level if you were naturally curious about these things. So in business, what if you were naturally curious about the person that you were speaking to on a sales call? Don't you think that you could really find what they needed and then you could link your product or your service and show that it's really valuable for them to fill that need and then get a desired result? Or your colleagues, what if you were really curious about what they were doing, what they were working on? You wouldn't feel like you were in your own little world inside the company. You would think that you were actually working, collaborating with a team. And so this then allows you to think in new ways. And every time that we think in new ways, this means we can get some results that we haven't even dreamed of yet. So having a willingness to experiment, this allows you to fail and allows you to fail fast. Really, failure is really not true. There's no failure. There's only feedback. However, if you have a willingness to experiment and do different things, new things, you're going to find what works for you and what doesn't. And along the way, you're going to learn, or you're going to get feedback. So then this allows you to achieve success more efficiently. So that's the first one. You want to have a way of thinking of curious. Be curious all the time. And then have a willingness to experiment. And those two things, just those two things alone, can really help you be more successful than you were before. And so remember, as you're listening, think about how you can apply this to your personal life and your professional life. The next underrated skill is having compassion for others. This could be customers, employees, your family, your friends, business partners, or partners. And all of these people, if you have compassion for them, this can significantly impact your success that you have in your personal and professional life. Because in business, for example, if you have compassion, this allows you to find out what someone needs, the needs of another person. And when you are curious and you have compassion, then you can build deep unconscious rapport. And this results in trust. And when you genuinely care about others, then this creates a business that people want to tell others about. Let's say I'm working with a client and they're telling me about what they're going through, what their presenting problem is. I don't need to full on empathize with them and feel everything they're feeling. No, if I'm curious and I have compassion and I show them that I really care about what's going on, and then I can show them down the line some different solutions and different methods and techniques that we can do to get rid of this problem. If I didn't take the time to show them compassion and be really curious about their problem, when we go to do one of the techniques, it's not going to be as effective, because the technique, it's going to work if I have rapport with this other person. So the more compassion that I show, the more I'm curious about this person, then this also gives me that willingness to experiment. So compassion, if you want other people to get results, especially when you're working with them in a professional setting, you need to have compassion for people. You need to show them that you actually care. You want them to get these measurable results. And even in your personal life, when you genuinely care about others, they're going to trust you. So don't just tell them you're compassionate. Show it also through your actions. Show them that you actually care. And people will think you're a good person. So the third one is adaptability and flexibility. So in my trainings, I'm sure I've said it on other episodes, one of the things that we teach is the person with the most flexibility of behavior controls the system or the conversation, the interaction, whatever's happening at that time. So if you can be flexible and you can adapt to different behaviors, adapt to the room that you're in, this is going to not only show you that you can be successful, you'll be able to create success in new ways because you don't have to do the same thing over and over. And what else does this do? When you're flexible, this allows you to gather feedback really efficiently, and it allows you the opportunity to consistently learn. So being adaptable and flexible is necessary because guess what? Things are going to happen that you can't control. It's inevitable. Because really the only two things that we can control our effort. So how much are we actually putting into achieving what we want, or putting in with our friends or family? How much effort are we putting into these relationships, into our business, our career, our work, our family? We can control the effort that we put in. We can't control the effort of others. However, we can also control our attitude. So how we feel and how we see the situation, what we're hearing, what we're feeling. We can control this as well. So if we can be flexible and control the effort and attitude that we have, then this means when something does go wrong, we're not going to be pointing the finger to the outside. Instead, we want to adapt. So our business or our personal growth, instead of it staying stagnant or stuck, we can then get new results. So when we're adaptable and we're flexible, this also shows us that we are willing to listen, we're willing to be curious, we're willing to have compassion for others, and we are going to take on feedback, because when you're flexible, you're not sure what's going to happen. You're taking things as they come, and you're willing to then get feedback so that you can then get better. Because remember, there's no failure, there's only feedback. And the next thing is resilience. So resilience is crucial for expanding your thinking in your personal life as well as expanding your business. Because if you're resilient, chances are you're going to hit different points where that resilience is going to be tested. And along the lines of all those, that's where people maybe quit. If you're resilient, though, you won't quit. You'll keep going. Successful people, successful thinkers, successful communicators, successful entrepreneurs with resilience, they see things as opportunities and possibilities. They don't necessarily see them so much as a challenge or a roadblock. Resilience is a good way to think for long-term success. So if you have a business, this is going to be important so that you can keep it going, so you can create success for you and this generation and many others, as well as for any of your employees and their generations as well. So if you would have quit, that wouldn't have happened. So every single day, yes, something might happen that makes us want to stop or not continue. However, if we look at, hey, these are all opportunities, these are possibilities for us, then you want to keep going because you have resilience. Even in our personal relationships, when you're with people, relationships aren't always easy. They take some work. They take effort. They take us having to control our attitude and how we really feel so we can see that this person probably does want our best interest with all the relationships that we have. If we're resilient, then we're also going to have better personal relationships. So that's important to achieving personally and professionally. So if you have resilience, then you can essentially achieve more success than you ever dreamed of. Another underrated skill, creativity. This is a huge skill, and having creativity is valuable in your personal life and in business. Creativity allows you to think outside the box and come up with new solutions. And this is essential in your personal life and in business, because this allows you to find new ways to differentiate yourself from other people, from other businesses in the market, so that you have new creative ways to get new results. And creativity, I think this also goes along with curiosity and having a willingness to experiment, because when creativity brings new ideas for you to implement, you're naturally curious about what is it that this idea is going to get for me and allow me to do. And the last one is decision making. So in the world today, there's so much information out there. And most of the time when we make a decision, we don't have all the information. We only need the information that is absolutely necessary for us to make a decision. So with all the information out there, it's important that you're actually making decisions and making decisions that really matter. So of course, in business, it's most effective when you're making decisions in a logical way. And you don't want to take so long to make a decision unless it's something super important. If you're always though looking for more information, trying to get more information, all these different things, then you're not going to make decisions. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to be stagnant. So have enough curiosity to gather information, the information that you think that you need. Make a decision though, because when you make a decision, this will also allow creativity to flow so you can implement things after making decisions. Because we make so many decisions a day anyway. Waking up, we decide that we need to get up. So you're already making so many unconscious decisions every day. Probably about 99% of what we're doing, the unconscious mind is doing. So you need to then work on your conscious decision-making process, gather just enough information so you have just enough to make that decision. Because if you have too much information, you may not actually make a decision. So if you can really become good at making decisions, this then is going to give you more choices, more opportunities, and more possibilities. So a person who's successful, when they make decisions and are flexible, then they also know when to change their approach too. Just because we make a decision doesn't mean that we have to stick with that decision if it is not getting the results that we want. So along with decision making, you also need to gather feedback, have a willingness to experiment, and have that adaptability and flexibility. So what can you do next? From curiosity and adaptability to things like creativity and decision making, these are some of the most underrated skills that can help you think in new ways. And when you think in new ways, this means when there are opportunities, you'll then want to go for them with confidence. So the important thing, one of the other things to consider, is for you always to have a willingness to learn more. And this learning, it happens in the unconscious mind. So this learning, it's right in the unconscious mind. So everything you learn gets stored there. So then you can then use this information to make even better decisions. And this is the part of the mind that you use during an NLP training or a hypnosis training. So if you're interested in the trainings that are coming up that I will have, go ahead and reach out. You can send me an email, alex@athensnlp.com. All the information and all the ways to contact me will be in the description of the episode. And if you really think about it, success for you is closer than you think. If you take on some of these underrated skills, you can easily boost your personal life to new heights. You can really boost your business. So go ahead and reach out to me if you want any help on any of these underrated skills. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Wherever you are listening, go ahead and rate the podcast so this podcast can get into the minds of many others. And I hope to see you on the next episode.